Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Transformations, where I transform everything in Minecraft. And today I have got a biggie for you, and when I say a biggie, I really do mean a biggie. It's not going to be quite mega, but we're going to get there. And it's going to be, that's right, the Jungle Temple, which I've had to clear out the land all around here just so that then we can actually get a good look at it, and also this will give you some inkling as to just how big we're going to be making this temple as we reconstruct it. But if we go in, first of all, you can see that it's basically just made out of cobblestone, and it's also made out of mossy cobblestone as well. They've thrown in some stairs, they've thrown in a little bit of detail to it as well. It's not my favourite design. I understand where technically it's sort of like based off of, but I just think it could look a little bit more cool. So as we go into here, you are met with two stairwells, so one that leads down and one that leads up. As you go up, there is absolutely nothing here, but there is little portals that you can see out of. As you go down, so back out to where ground level is, there is a secret bunker, which is just here, which you have to mess around with pistons and some levers in order to get working. There's a little bit of redstone here. If you can't quite see this, I apologize. And then of course, there is always a little treasure box, which has got some things in it. So then if we go even further down, you can see this is where the levers are. Pressing them changes how you gain access to the upstairs. So if we go back up now, you can see, oh, it's closed off. So it's a fun little mini game. It helps you to understand how redstone works. And then as we pass the corner here, you can see a dispenser there. And as you pass, here's some tripwire hooks. And I think they're empty now, to be honest with you. I was messing around in here before. Yep, they are now empty. Now, in terms of recreating this space down here, because this is just set up for you to understand how redstone works, I'm not too bothered about recreating a redstone look. I'm not really a redstone Minecraft player. I can do redstone, but it's not my specialty. So I think we'll be leaving that for a different series and maybe a different time. I want to focus on this design, how to actually make this look even better than it currently is. It looks a bit alien heady, doesn't it? Maybe that's just me. So I have got a few different types of blocks. Naturally, I want to incorporate mossy bricks and normal bricks, as well as cobblestone and mossy cobblestone as well. There is some vanity blocks as well with this, which is the cut stone. And then I've also got a lodestone as well. I use that one literally just in my igloo transformation series. If you haven't seen it yet, go watch it. And I just think it would look really good to incorporate into this build somewhere. There is some green stained glass, also some green leaves, some vines, some lichen, lichen, I forgot what it's called, some copper, which has been completely aged, and then also in its third stage age as well. Finally, some moss, some verdant frog lights, and then jungle wood in all of its different formats. I also have a beacon here, because I am thinking of potentially having some sort of beacon which goes all the way up. And then of course, anything that you can think which is going to be green. We've got some lanterns, we've got the blue, and we've also got the orange as well, just because they give off two different styles of light. So potentially going in, we could have something like this, and then at the top, something like this. Some amethyst crystals just to kind of, brighten the place up a little bit, some glow berries, some bamboo, a spore blossom, just to give that particle effect. Some glazed terracotta, this is the lime green, this is the normal green as well, because I think it would be really good to incorporate these. Emerald blocks in their ore state and also their mine state, so when you turn them into a block. The jungle trees, and of course a bunch of flowers. And then finally the actual emerald itself. What I'm effectively wanting to create here is a little bit more of sort of like a garden? Yeah, a little bit more like a garden scene. Something like a pyramid style structure, which again we've all seen before and is not really that original, but something that we can spruce up and make it look a little bit more exciting than just a standard pyramid style structure. Because ultimately, I think for this, we could have done a variant on this style of shape, but this is very tombstone-y in my opinion. It's not really an exploration style thing. You're not going to you don't get much from it, is what I'm trying to say. Sure, you can jump up onto the top of the roof here. This is fun. Woo. Isn't this exciting? You don't really not enthralled by it. This is where most of the actual fun is. And again, this underground structure exists purely for you to learn how redstone works. So if we're not really trying to understand how redstone works in this series, then we're just here to make sure that it's a pretty build. With that being said, what do I actually have in mind for this? Well, I think as you've learned by now, it's pretty much just gotta go. I have taken inspiration from the colour scheme, even from the fact that it is somewhat rectangular and or square, but it is not what I want. This is not even savable in my opinion. I think it has to be completely redesigned, completely redone, and we have to start this whole thing out from scratch. I think what I'm going to do is just to start out here just a little bit and just sort of show you. This is kind of what I'm thinking. What you're effectively going to have is these stone pillars. There will be 5 in total, which run across the length. Across the width, we're going to basically mimic this exact same structure. So we'll run across here, run straight down from there, and then the same across there, then the same across there. 2 sets of stairwells will run parallel against each section. So you will have 2 pillars leading to a stairwell, 2 pillars leading to a stairwell, and then a central pillar from each stairwell basically. This is going to be a repeated pattern that'll run straight the way around the entire building. This is all from a sketch as well, by the way, that I drew, that again I'm not going to show you because my sketches are terrible. And it's going to eventually complete this, make a giant square. Then as we go from there, these stairs will lead up to a leveling platform, which is basically going to be this here. So what we will effectively have is another set of stairs, and then another set which is going to run across here. So this will effectively then be one platform. This platform will then extend out for a few blocks, not 100% sure how much just yet until I start building the actual thing. Then we will start again with another platform which will raise up and we'll have this structure. However, we will be removing 1 pillar each time we move up. So effectively the next one's not going to have 5 pillars, it's going to have 4. Then it's going to have 3, then it's going to have 2. And then it'll lead to 1 pillar just sticking up at the top. The stairs will lead all the way up to it. In between the stairwells and in between these sections, we are basically just going to turn it into a bit of a garden, a little bit of sort of like, you know, that kind of lush greenery feel. What we're then also going to do is trying to incorporate some of the wood panels and some of the copper panels into all of this, because otherwise it's just going to be a lot of brick, kind of texturizing, so adding in different blocks. It's not going to be enough. You're going to need to really go whole hog with this. The problem when you start building with huge structures, or when you start to make something even bigger, you kind of have to put a bit more effort in texture wise, otherwise it is just all the same brick. For a mega build, you can get away with it because it's something that you see from a distance. But if you're exploring this kind of building, which is the intention, that's the plan, a lot of time does have to be put into making sure that the textures are all completely different. There's nowhere for the eye just to rest. This is very bland and very unimaginative, so we kind of need to amp it up a little bit. This is going to take some time, so this is definitely going to be a time-lapse moment. What I think I'm going to do is get the basics. Again, you guys know how I work. I just end up doing everything with 1 shade of brick or 1 shade of block, and then from that point on, I go back over and I retexture the whole thing back out again. Texturizing on this is going to be slightly different to how I've done others, just because I am wanting to incorporate some of the other blocks as well, some of these more vanity, different style coloured blocks like the copper and stuff. So I think we'll be bringing you back in for that, but this is going to take me a little while. I have to demolish that and then I have to go around and create the entire structure. So it's going to be a time lapse. This will be quite a bit of a time lapse as well, to be honest with you, but I'll try and speed it up as much as possible. So if you're ready, let's get building, shall we? I'll see you in a minute. Welcome back from the time lapse. We are finally done. This entire section has been completely reshaped out, and now we have the actual baseline structure. So let's just walk you through it. Naturally, it's all brick at the moment in time, so it does look a little bit stark. I mean, this is what I mean by just using one tone. It just instantly looks terrible. However, you would walk up these platforms all the way just to get to the top, which is going to be here. Now, I am thinking that in this section here is going to be where we have our beacon. It's going to pink out of the top here, and that's going to be the central beam. However, this is all one color. This is all just one texture. This is all just one style. We need to create some variation in this work so that then it actually stands out. How you go about doing that on a build this big is a little bit different to something which you would normally tend to do for a small building. For example, all my others. Want to create something which is going to look symmetrical. For example, what you're going to do on one pillar has to be the same on every other pillar. Can't have them looking different. It's just going to look weird. In terms of this being a symmetrical building, it is very symmetrical. All of the points equal to the same dimensions, diameter, and lines. For example, whilst this may have 2 blocks on this side and only 1 block on this side, it is replicated on the other side, having just 1 block on each side and then 2 blocks on either side as well. This is symmetry. Regardless of whether or not it looks symmetrical looking straight down the middle, i.e. if you put a line straight the way there, it is not symmetrical, but it is technically from a standpoint of everything being the same. So how are we going to make this into a decorated structure? Well, it can seem a little bit scary at first because you kind of have this whole thing in which to actually start doing. But the reality is, starting with 1 pillar and 1 stairwell means that you can then replicate the entire thing all the way around, and you have a good base to work from. So if you don't like, for example, the lodestone in that section, you can split it up and you can change it. So if, for example, we might have wanted something a little bit more like this, we could have a look and just see if that's going to work with the rest of the building. You do have to use a little bit of imagination when you are making something this big and kind of have a grander structure in mind. I think what we would first of all want to do is take a look at it with some of these blocks. What I want to do is to create some sort of geometric style pattern shape, and the one that I normally tend to go with tends to be something similar to this, which is where you knock it out and you're basically creating something which stands out in this kind of squarish style pattern. It's a kind of go-to just because it is probably one of the most easiest things that you can actually create. Knock out 2 blocks at the bottom and putting in the lodestones is a great way of adding even more dimensional structure to this. These top platforms here can be completely redesigned by adding fence gates. So whether it be a stone fence, whether it be a wooden fence, that's the question that we have to answer. Doing something like this probably doesn't work in the grand context because you want something which is going to stand out rather than it being a little bit too much of a mishmash of colours. These pillar structures would normally tend to have something in place for them to sit on. For example, the central bit would probably be more like grass, which means that the outside bit would have to be raised up. If we put grass in the central part here, you can already see that it's going to change how this sort of style works. What this also means is that you could add things like leaves into here. Again, leaves up and around the top section is going to look a bit weird if you start placing them onto everything. So instead, you could have a section where the leaves break around, like so. And then we could have another section where we grow certain things on there. For example, if we wanted to stick a melon, and then if we also wanted to grab something like flowers maybe. It looks very cute. However, I don't think that this is the style I want to go for, because in between these sectional platforms, I'm thinking of having the garden bed. So we'll remove this out. Something like this creates a little bit more of a structure pattern, and it just kind of makes it feel like that we've gone for something that was a little bit more unique and more different. We can add into here as well some pillars just at the side panels. So say for example, one there, one there, one there, one around there, which will blend in as soon as we start to alleviate some of the actual brickwork, for example, and it will just help them blend in a little bit more. Even just changing them out so that they're more brickwork. Potentially cobblestone might be a little bit too messy here. I think we would probably have to go in very sparingly. What we could then do is we can add in something like a lighting structure. So for example, tipping on some of these lanterns will give more light. Whether or not that's too much light is, I think, pretty much for you to decide. You could, even if you wanted to, extend these sections up, place stairs just underneath these areas here, and then from that point you could have a chain there, frog lights, and then we could turn these into lanterns, just like so. But then if we come away from it, we basically have this lighting structure to each of the pillar towers, and we can run that across from either section. Even just adding in small details and small flourishes just to finish this whole thing up, you can really change the sort of style and the creativity of it. Adding in things like the copper blocks accentuates what's going on here. And we are still not done yet with the actual texturizing of this section. So if we add some cracked bricks, for example, let's go in with some normal cobblestone as well. You can see the difference in this block to this one. It just feels more finished, it feels more done. And this is just a rough guide, this is a rough sketch that we can follow as we move around. It's going to be a lot of work, but I think that the first thing that we do is get all of the pillars textured and detailed, and then we can move on to the main stairwells. I will be back in just a moment. Hello, welcome back from the time lapse. So, what have we been doing? Quite a bit actually, let's take a look. It's finally completely detailed. Well, I say completely detailed, but not completely. We've just done the sort of the cosmetic looks for it. But let's walk through it, shall we? So I have re-changed up these pillars and just kind of put green glass in the middle of them and a spore blossom in each of these areas, just so we get the particle effects looming around. I added in wood just to sort of separate out these lines here, and then coming down from the bottom, and then of course there we have the glowberries. And then finally, I've kind of repeated this across all sections of the building. So the detailing work has been linked to the side walls. And of course, at the top of the side walls, we now have stairs, which just creates a miniature overhang, just to kind of give it a little bit more depth. Again, everything when it comes to building revolves around depth and texture. Otherwise, you just have a simple building. As we come up to the top levels here, you can see that we have got grass patches, and then underneath these, the verdant frog lights. I've incorporated some of the emerald ore just in and around certain sections, just to kind of give it that little bit of a fun quirkiness to it. And then even as we go up, you can see that the pattern is basically replicated across the whole thing. Again, we want symmetry in this build, and whilst it may not be completely identical, it is symmetrical. As we go up to the top levels here, making our way through, there's even more spore blossoms. This central section here is going to be where our beacon light is going to come from, and so I'm also going to put a lime green thing on it so that then it glows lime green coming out the top. But for now, I think that the actual detail work is pretty good. I mean, we've got everything that we kind of need it to. If we take a step back here and look at it, you can see it's all kind of flowing together. These patches of grass still make it look a bit weird. So in terms of detail, no, it's not actually finished. We still have to do a little bit more work to this. But we're going to do that together right now, just to sort of create something. In terms of garden work, I kind of want this to feel somewhat overgrown, somewhat more lush than what we've currently got going on here. The way that I would go about this is to add in a few different things just randomly. So it doesn't have to necessarily make sense. I mean, even if we sort of add different flowers from different kind of varieties, we can still kind of get the same look. When it comes to bamboo, what you can do is you can place them as high as you want them to be. So if we go quite high up with this one, say to about there, cap the top off with string, and it's now no longer going to grow. The thing about string is, even though this technically doesn't fill the block, it does occupy the block space, so the string will still stop it from growing up. And you can just place them in and around wherever you are happy that everything looks. And if you take a step back, you really can't see it unless you truly focus in on it. I mean, from a distance at least, you're not going to see the string, but you will see the bamboo. When it comes to sort of detailing in random parts, you can just kind of throw things in and just sort of make it look over the top. Effectively, if you was to be walking around here, you would be using these stone pathways anyway. So the grass just kind of is there to make it look a little bit more fancy, a little bit more natural. Like they've sort of planted these gardens out and, you know, we're kind of world building and landscaping a little bit here. Each section can have something different on it. So say, for example, you wanted to keep up with the whole bamboo aesthetic, you can do. All I do is just keep on firing bamboo into surrounding places. But then we can always change up the actual flowers that you want to put on there. So if you wanted to, you can put in things like peonies, and then say, I don't know, something like tulips. Perhaps maybe we put one pumpkin just there. Not pumpkin, melon. And so already what we are doing is just creating this look of where everything just feels a little bit more overgrown, and everything just feels like we've sort of created this garden landscape. Now, if you also want to, what you can do is add in, say, let's do some leaves. Say we grab some leaves, we can put some leaves just in random places. And with the leaves, again, you can just place in random points just to sort of make it look again like it's sort of overgrown and things are just kind of coming out. If you want to, you can also make these too high, which I don't know if I like that, so I'm just going to take those away. But yeah, this is just literally to do with you kind of creating a scene and making this kind of work. Now, if you want to remove the leaves, which I think I will do, it can be replaced with bone meal. Wonderful thing about bone meal is it will give you grass. I don't necessarily want there to be flowers in here that I wouldn't want myself, so I'm placing the kind of flowers that I want to see. And that, I think, looks pretty good. So that is the kind of look that I'm going for. It's this sort of overgrown feel. It feels really sort of green. When you take a step back from it, you can see that there is definitely things that are going on in this platform, and it's going to add dimension to each of the platforms as well. So I think that there is no time like the present. We'll get this whole thing sorted, and then we'll come back in for the final part of the detailing. I'll be right back. See you in a minute. Welcome back from the time lapse, and I have been busy just doing a little bit of garden work. Ta-da! It looks so cool. We have got everything that you could ever want in this green field on the top here. From melons to bamboo, which I've locked in place. We've also got some pots with the jungle wood tree saplings just placed in there as well. And we've kind of bone mealed the area just to make it feel a little bit more greener. We also have some hidden chests every now and again, just so as you walk through, you can see what this city was built on. Emeralds. As we make our way to the top, I have continued this across every single grass platform that you can see here. Just alternating it. Some of them have only got the melons, some have only got plants on them, some have only got bushes, like this one, and then some of them have got a mixture of absolutely everything. So for example, this one here. Down at the bottom here, there is a beacon. And unfortunately, we can't put anything more than this. I have built this a little bit out. It's not going to bug me that much, but I do kind of wish that there was enough space for me to sit 4 beacons with 4 beams of lights coming out of them. But it is what it is, and we have got speed on this as well, because you need to be speedy when you are exploring this entire kingdom. I just want to add some finishing and flourishings to this whole thing. So that is the lanterns put into place. I don't think I'm going to be using the orange lanterns at all, to be honest with you. I don't really think it's necessary, but I do want to stick a few amethyst clusters around. I know it may seem a bit unusual, but I think that they're just going to add something unique to this whole build. I just think it'll be a fun little thing that you would see as you were exploring around, almost like they've sort of formed naturally. I'm not trying to place them in any particular spot which is going to stand out. I just want them to sort of be dotted about the place in a random kind of way. All sections have been done. I've even put up this little banner pattern as well, just dotted it around so that then we know that this is our brand new sort of kingdom, or just what we sort of represent, earth, air, and then flowery greens. So I am almost done with this, almost finished, but there is one more thing that I want to do, and that is just to kind of finish off the outside area as well. Whenever you make something that's this big, this detailed, you kind of want to do the outside as well, otherwise it just looks a bit weird. You've kind of got this whole thing built up and fully structured, but then the outside of it is this perfect grassland, which, you know, would never really happen. The first thing that I want to do though is to effectively remove the actual grass, remove the dirt levels from all of this, and make this 2D. Then I want to place grass blocks, and then if I place into here water, can you tell? No, you can't. What if I change it for a deeper color? No, you can't tell. So my intention was to have something where like the glass kind of change the color of the water, but apparently that's just not gonna happen. So instead what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna moat this whole thing. Just give me a moment, we'll be right back. Welcome back from the time lapse. It is done. It is finished. I am complete. I'm going to call this whole thing set and sorted. So what I've done is I've just added a lot more trees, a lot more sort of like lush jungliness around the side here, just so that then this is imprisoned. What you are wanting is for, if someone's going to be finding this, again, I know it doesn't matter much, but say you are trekking through the wilderness and your way to find some lost hidden city, you want it to be hard to see and hard to sort of make out until you get here, and then you realize just how big the actual city truly is. And then you can make your way all the way up to the top through all of these overgrown weeping vines and things, and you find yourself right here at the center of a beacon. But if we look at it from the top, this is exactly the way that I wanted it to be. Yes, it is very hard to focus on, and of course there is a specific reason for that. It's a jungle temple. Of course it's going to be hard to focus on. It's huge, it's massive. If we span out and find a higher tree, say for instance this one, you can see already just how big it was in scale and just how much we had to do in order to get it to where it is now. In shaders, you can see that you are given a little bit more of a dynamic feel to it, and sometimes this is always the benefit of shaders. It adds shadow, it adds depth for you. You can sort of see the general structure that we were going for originally. If we want to make this into nighttime, however, you can see that the entire thing glows and it just looks so cool. This giant beam of light which stretches all the way up into the sky. If we drop ourselves down, we can explore this through the world of shaders. Having the lights under here is a really good way of being able to cover up the fact that there is additional light sources, because the glow lichen, the lights which are up on the podiums, and even these soul lanterns, they're not enough really to sort of bring the whole thing into a giant illumination. Without these underneath here, everything would feel too dark, and I don't think that you would get the full effect of exploring this with shadows and to try and sort of offset that all of this is really dark as well. Making our way up to the top level, there is purposefully no lights in this section because I wanted the beam to stand out the most. And I really do think it does. I think it just adds that little extra something to this whole world and just kind of makes it look cool and unique. But of course, taking a look at it from here and just having a look and seeing what's going on in this entire place, I love this whole build. I really do think that it's everything that I wanted a jungle temple to effectively be. And it's a lot better than the original, that's for sure. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Let me know if you think I did a good job with this. What would you do? How would you transform the jungle temple? And of course, whilst you're there, why don't you leave me a little like? I need all the help I can get. And if you're in the mood for liking, why don't you hit that subscribe button as well? And also ring the bell, because then you'll be notified every time I upload. And of course, I can't wait for next time round. Will we be transforming things again? Will we be going on a different adventure? Who knows? You'll have to come next week and just find out for yourself. Thank you very much for watching, you guys. My name is Buster UV. I can't wait to see you all here again next week. I'll see you then, guys. Bye. Bye, bye, bye. Bye.